Okay, I think we are in business and we are recording. Thanks, Georgia, Thomas, David, and Justin for joining me for this. I know there are several students who are wanting to be be at this session, but aren't able to. So I'm gonna record this and put it up on our course site a little bit later, either tonight or early tomorrow morning. So the goal of this session is to just kind of go over and remind ourselves of what the expectations are for peer review, especially the comments that you're going to be giving to one another. So um, at our first peer review, we did our side shadowing comments, which is where you're commenting on your own work. You shared your draft with your peer review group members with those side shadowing comments. They then responded to those comments in a particular way that I'm asking you to respond. And then we came together as a class and talked about those orally as well. That last step where we as a class came together and talked about the comments orally, we're not going to do that this time. The reason for that is I'm trying to keep as much of our class asynchronous, meaning that people can do it on their own time as possible. So we're going to do everything the same, just like last time, except for that last step where we come together as a group. So I'm going to be going through the peer review rubric and packet in a second. And if there are any questions along the way, either just put it in the chat function or you can interrupt me. Or there's even a raise hand function. You can use that as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and take us into the peer review packet. So this is shared on several places on the course site. Are you all able to see this?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So this is the same packet you were asked to read through and review before spring break when you're giving peer feedback to one another. It's a rather lengthy document, but I just want to point out a few of the highlights just to remind ourselves of what we're supposed to do. So the first step in peer review, the way we do peer review in this class, sorry, you may hear my dog in the background. You may also hear scraping. They're painting the house I'm in, and it's a little bit chaotic. So hopefully you can hear me without problems though. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to comment on your own draft. So here you're asking, you're going to, in the Google Drive function, you're going to ask questions. And these are questions geared at your peer review partners. You're just kind of asking them prompting them for particular points of feedback that you're most interested in at this point in your drafting process. Then your peer review group members will read both your paper and your comments, and then they're going to respond to those comments. And I'm asking you to respond in a really particular way. I'm asking you to not use what I call appropriative feedback or evaluative feedback, and I'll go over what that looks like in just a second. In place of that, I'm wanting you to use a model called describe and prompt feedback. So what you'll be doing is, in general, when you're responding to a side shadowing comment for a particular peer review partner, you're going to respond by saying, here's something specific I see you doing in this place. And you're wanting that to be at the level of the text. So rather than like a reader response, like this makes me feel, or I see that, something about like how it makes you feel or what it makes you think as a reader, try and talk about the text itself. What are the specific writing choices that are happening that are making you feel that way or think that way? And after you've described specifically what you see happening in that moment, you're going to put it back to the author of the paper themselves. Rather than try and solve the problem for them, you're trying to help them think about the problem in a new way. try and help them get unstuck without just solving the problem for them. So you can do one of two things. You can either ask a question that brings them back into thinking about their writing and their paper in that moment, or you can give them something specific to do, some kind of writing action. But again, this writing action shouldn't be appropriative, meaning you shouldn't take the text on as if it was your own and just rewrite a bit for them. Instead, you might say something like, maybe you could write about this in your process journal, this question that I'm asking you. And that's a specific thing that they can do, but it's not just solving the problem for them, like just change this. And then finally, you're wanting to do that by 5 p.m. the night before peer review, but I'm just saying you need to do that by, normally that's what I would say, but in this case, I'm just asking you to finish these first 3 bullet points by end of day Thursday, which is, time is a flat circle, but this Thursday is the 23rd. Okay. Let me pause there and see if you all have any questions. I'm gonna stop share for just a second so I can view the chat function. Do you have any questions for me so far?
I think I'm good.
You're good?
No.
That all makes
Same here.
sense to me. It's pretty straightforward.
Okay, well, I want to go over a couple of examples then to help just solidify this, and then we might do an exercise in a second, if that's okay. So I'm going to go back into screen share mode. All right, so I'm going to skip down to the bottom of this rubric. I'm not rubric, this, what is this, a handout. So here I talk about a little bit more about what I mean by evaluative and appropriative and what exactly I'm looking for in the describe and prompt feedback. So you want to focus your feedback on the reader's side shadowing comments. I'm sorry, the author's side shadowing comments. If you comment outside of those, that's okay, but you want to limit that. You want to focus it really on the author's questions about the text themselves. And you want to avoid evaluative feedback. So evaluative feedback is any time that you're just saying, making an evaluative statement about the text or making an estimation of the text. I love this. I think this is good. Good job. You're doing well. I don't think this section flows well. And then appropriative feedback is anytime you take the text as if it were your own. Like, I would do it this way, or just move this paragraph up, or I don't think you need that comma there. There you're kind of taking on the position, like, this is as if this was my paper and this is what I would do to it if this was my paper. Those are natural things to do when commenting. It's something that we kind of resort to often when we're just kind of going on autopilot trying to comment, but I'm asking you to avoid doing either one of those things. So you might be asking, well, if I'm not supposed to do either one of those things, what should I do instead? And the answer is, I'm wanting you to use that describe and prompt method. Again, the way this goes is, I see you doing this here in this specific place, and you want to be sure that you are, in that case, grounding it at the level of the text. So making sure you're commenting on a specific writing choice that student author is making, not reporting on how it makes you feel or how it makes you think. That's kind of reporting on the effects. And I want you to point out the writing choice that made those effects happen. So it's like one level down from your reader response. You can begin with your reader response, like this makes me feel, this makes me think this way, but then you want to go that next step and say, this is the specific writing choice that's making that happen. And then you can ask a question, or you can propose a writing action. But again, you don't want that to be appropriative. I know I'm repeating myself several times here, but repetition can help to solidify what I'm talking about. So you don't want to just tell them exactly what they should write, exactly how they should write it, or even rewriting bits of text yourself. Like maybe you should say something like this. That would be appropriative feedback. Instead, think of things they might do, that the author might do to help them think through the problem themselves or to get unstuck. Okay. I want to look at a few examples. Um, here are some examples of evaluative feedback. This is great. I love this sentence. This doesn't flow. These are some examples of appropriative feedback. Oops. Maybe say this instead. Move this sentence up. Okay. So those are things I don't want you to do. Here are some positive examples, things I do want you to do. First, here's an example of described and prompt feedback. I see that you are imitating the syntax Davis uses in her piece we read in class, where she often begins the sentence with a verb, and we are left to assume the subject of the sentence is her. Note that they're talking about something very specific that's happening in the writing itself, in the text. Okay. Then they're going on to say, to prompt the reader back into, prompt the author back into revision. The first phrase in this sentence might work differently though. What would the rhetorical effect be if the sentences were more uniform in construction? So they're asking a specific question that will help that student author think about their text in a different way that's based on precisely on what they were noting in the description portion of their comment. So this prompt was a question. I want to look at now a example of describe and prompt feedback that uses not a question, but a specific writing action to get the student author rethinking their writing. So again, let's look at the description first. This commenter says, I see you are starting to introduce a thematic reflection here by moving from a concrete description to stepping back and providing a more abstract comment on what the scene means. One more time, they are describing something specific in the text and not reporting on their feelings or their thinking as a reader. Prompt. You asked how to develop this thematic idea. So there they're calling back to the author's side shadowing comment. Maybe you could use the thematic reflection handout we got in class to do some free writing in your process journal. Asking yourself questions about the theme you identify here and then free writing answers to those questions might also help. So, so there they're giving them something specific to do, but they aren't just rewriting the text for them. Okay. So one thing that might come up for you is, what should I do if they ask me, what if they ask me a question that is prompting me to give appropriative feedback? Like, what should I do here? Or do you think this is good? They're the side shadowing comment is actually prompting their readers to give evaluative or appropriative feedback. And you would still want, even though that's what the author is asking of you, you'll still want to resist that and try and reframe the question in terms of that describe and prompt feedback. Another question you might have is, well, what if they're asking me about grammar? Can I still do describe and prompt feedback with a grammatical question? The answer is yes, you can. Here's an example of that. So this is a bit of text from a student paper. I began to sweat, semicolon, dripping down my forehead, comma, running into my eyes, comma, causing them to sting as if I had just taken eye drops, period. The side shadowing comment for that bit of text was, should I use a semicolon? So there, the student author is asking kind of an appropriative question. What should I do? Tell me what to do. And they're asking a question about grammar. So we're wanting as a responder to avoid giving appropriative feedback, even though that's what the student author is asking for. So here's the approach another student had with responding to this using describe and prompt feedback. They said, I see you trying to make a big break here after the first independent clause. I think that will lift out the sweating as important and punchy. So this is them reporting on their reader response, but note that before that, they talk about something very specific that's happening in the text, so that's okay. Then they move to prompting. My question is, though, what is the subject of dripping? Is the clause that starts with dripping independent? If not, is there a way to keep that same punchy effect without using the semicolon, or to rephrase the second clause to make it independent? So the student is saying, well, I don't know if this is an independent clause, so I'm not sure. Usually semicolons separate two independent clauses. So I don't know if that's the right choice. It's asking the author a question about that, and then it's giving them a couple of different options for how to approach it, and then it's putting it back to them. What do you think would be a better approach and why? So the student is moving the author back into their text with new questions to ask about it. So the student author wasn't sure about something, and now through this comment, they hopefully have a better understanding of what they're doing in that moment and some new questions to ask about it. Okay, so that was that in a little bit more detail. I want to stop again and give you a chance to ask questions. Also, there's some new people that have joined us. Hi, Celine and Ian. Good to see you. If you are not wanting to, I'm recording this session, so if you're not wanting your image or your voice to be part of the recording, that's totally fine. Just know that you can stop your video or mute your audio or both. And that way, when I record this, your image won't be like shared if you don't want it to be. Okay, so that's just a quick note. Okay, so any questions about what I've gone over so far? I know that was a lot of detailed information. Let me pause for a minute.
No, I got it.
You got it?
Yep.
I have a question.
Yeah.
It sounds from what you were describing that it's very similar to how we did our peer review on our last essay.
It's the same.
It's exactly the same. Okay, good.
It's exactly the same. Yeah. So, I did this session because some of us didn't receive high passes on the last one, and this is really geared at those people to make sure that I'm clarifying exactly what I am and am not looking for.
Right. You mentioned that you could use a token to like revise your past peer reviews. So how would that work out?
Yeah, so you wouldn't revise it. You can use your token to just replace that grade. So it's kind of like a get out of jail free card.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, that's a bad metaphor, but just you get kind of it replaces that grade.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, because there's not really a way to go back and do peer review.
Yeah, no, that'd be kind of weird.
Yeah. If you need to go, you can go. If you want to stick around, I can. If you want a little extra individual help or in a smaller group, I can do that as well. This ends the kind of lecture portion of this. So if you feel like you have a good handle on it, like Georgia does, then you can feel free to exit the meeting. If you want to stick around and ask some more pointed questions and maybe even try some writing and do some revision and have me look at it, we can do that as well. So I'll give you a second.
Thank you.
Thanks, Georgia.
If
Thank
I
you. Thank you.
have questions on just like the paper in general, can I just email you?
You can email me. You can set up an individual conference.
Okay.
And I think I have office hours maybe tomorrow or Thursday. I forget.
Okay, I'll just email you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
Yep. You too.
Thank you so much, Professor Ekstrand.
Okay. Thanks,
I'll
David.
keep in touch.
Okay. Sounds good.
So I missed the first few minutes of this meeting. Do you mind going over what I missed, or
Yeah.
that-
So here's
after?
what I would suggest. So Justin and Ian, if you're game, then what I might have you do is find an old comment of yours.
Okay.
Like go back to your shared with me folder on your drive
Yeah.
and find a comment that you made on a peer's work. I'll give you a second to do that. That might take a little bit of searching before you've got it. And just give me a thumbs up once you have found an old comment of yours. Or just instead of a thumbs up, you can just let me know audibly. Or
Yeah, I'm looking for it right now.
that's fine. Yeah, take your time.
Okay, I found one.
Found one?
Yeah.
Okay. Ian, would you mind either sharing your screen and letting us see the comment or
Yeah.
reading it out loud to us?
Do that.
Yeah, so if you go to the bottom of the Zoom screen with your mouse, you should be able to see like a green button that says share screen. Do you see that?
Yeah, I do. It's right in front of me.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then-
you said you disabled screen sharing.
Oh, I did?
Yeah, maybe you have to fix something.
Oh, yeah, I did. Let's see. Try it now.
It's giving me some options. Do I just do desktop one?
Yeah, just do your desktop. That's fine.
Okay. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You see that, Justin?
Yep.
All
All
right.
right. So here's my comment. Yeah. Wait.
Let's see if I can.
You want me to pull up like her original prompt? Like,
Yeah, okay. So
she just had a problem with the word there, I guess.
okay, so Maddie asked, should I include more of a transition here? Is that the one?
Yeah, that one.
Okay, and then where is your
So my
response?
comment is right here.
All right, you say a transition would help because you talk about your friend and go straight into talking about being nervous. I also think you could work on showing more than telling in the previous sentence. It would be nice to set up this it would help set up this paragraph nicely.
Yeah, I kind of like I did all appropriate description there.
Okay, great. So exactly. So it's not a bad comment, right? It's not like you're being thoughtful about the student's text, you're being specific, and that's really good, right? I'm just asking us to do a very specific thing and to avoid appropriate feedback. So I'm going to give you a second. And Justin, do you have a comment too? That you found
I
your
do.
own?
I mean, I do. They're all relatively like straightforward as to like I understand why they're not.
Okay,
like,
good. So that's
comments.
great. Yeah, that's great. So then what I'd like to try is like rewriting one of those comments. So Ian, you could try and rewrite this comment to make it less appropriative and use that describe and prompt method. And you can just do that in another document, or you can click those, they're called the kebab next to resolve, those three little dots, and you can edit and you can actually change the comment yourself there, whatever your preference is. And you can take us out of screen share if you don't want us to like watch you revise. That could be like a little bit strange, I would imagine. Yeah. So Justin and Ian, go ahead and take a minute and just try and revise one of those comments based on what we just went over with that handout and then on the other side, we can like talk about what you did and how you did it. Would that be okay?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'll give you a few minutes to do that.
So the kind of layout of the comment is like you describe what you're kind of seeing, and then you prompt them to try and help them fix what they have a problem with.
Yeah, exactly. And you want that description to be something about the text. This is what I see happening in the text, rather than this is what I feel or what I think as a reader.
Okay, I get that.
And then the prompting can either be a question back to the author or giving them something to do. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, just take a few minutes. Let me know when you're ready to talk about them. And since this is being recorded, if you're watching this at a later date, you can do the same thing that Ian and Justin are doing. You might find an old comment and use this time to revise it.
I'm done rewriting my comment.
Okay.
Done. So I was commenting on Ian's. Well, not this Ian, the other Ian.
Yeah, we have another Ian in another class.
Yeah.
Would you mind sharing your screen with us, or would it's okay if
Yeah,
you
let me
don't want
see.
to?
No, that's fine. Let me see. Share screen. Desktop one. Let me see. Sorry, I just need to open my preferences or whatever to be able to not be able to. Oh. Well, it says I have to quit Zoom to.
Okay, that's okay. Do you want to just read your comment out to us?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So the initial comment Ian had his introduction for his LED, and he asked, "Does my intro flow well with the rest of my piece and make sense?"
Mm-hmm.
And I think I said like a really pretty short comment about how I thought it flowed well, and it was like pretty appropriative. So I changed it. I said, I see just well, should I read his intro? It's only like 4 lines.
Sure, you could do that.
Okay, so he says, My entire life has been a struggle to define the word home. Is it a place of feeling, a group of people I've yet to understand because I have been constantly moving from home to home, apartment to apartment, school to school throughout my eventful but short life thus far? I'm not saying I abhor my lifestyle. However, this is merely a description of my emotions during one of my transitions. And so what I said was, I see you describing or defining what home is to you. You also say that you don't really understand what it means to you as a whole. Maybe you could use a topic sentence to clarify to the reader that you will be exploring the subject of home in this paper.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
I thought,
what I like that you were very specific in your describe portion where you're rooting it at the level of the text, and you are giving them something to a specific writing action to do, but you aren't then going ahead and like writing it for them. You know what I mean?
so I should try and write it for them. Like, should
Oh,
I?
no, you shouldn't. What?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well then, yeah, no, I'm not. No, I just said like they should maybe use like they could use topic because like I feel like that's what you showed us in the
Yeah.
first part of this.
Yeah,
Because
that's
like
a
we
good
have
comment.
to. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm saying that you did that well, I think.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Sorry,
Yes.
I didn't quite get that.
Yeah, I know. It's but yeah, I think that's what's working in that comment. At least it's sticking to that pattern. Now, what was tricky about that is that Ian was prompting you for evaluative feedback, or I'm sorry,
Appropriative.
yeah. What did he say again? What was his initial
Does
question?
my intro flow well with the rest of my piece and make sense?
Yeah, does it flow well? So you could have just said, yeah, it flows well, and that would be evaluative, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're just kind of saying this is
Yeah, it works well. It doesn't work well.
yeah. So the difference between that and your revised comment is that Ian would have a better idea of exactly what is working and what is not working.
Okay.
Ian Killifer, how are you doing?
I'm just finishing up. I think I'm finished.
Okay, would you mind sharing since we saw the original, would you mind sharing your screen again so we could look at your revised version?
Yes. Right, here it is. It's in this text box.
Great, thank you. So would you mind reading it out?
Sure. What I see here is a developed thought about your feeling during the graduation day. I see how you describe your emotions on this day and how you felt nervous and nearly sick to the stomach. However, I noticed this thought lacks a smooth transition from the previous paragraph. In order to do so, we would referring back to the process journal help in smoothing this transition.
Okay, so when you say it lacks a smooth transition,
Mm-hmm.
what do you mean by that?
Well, what I noticed in her last sentence above is it really doesn't relate to anything in the next paragraph.
Okay.
Usually, you kind of have a sentence to like maybe say something a little or like give a little bit of insight about what you're going to be saying in the next paragraph. However, this one didn't really have any of that.
Okay. Could you describe that in place of where you say, however, I noticed this thought lacks a smooth transition from the previous paragraph? Can you talk about that specific sentence and its relationship to what's coming afterwards? How would you do that?
Okay.
Sorry, I know I'm putting you on the spot here.
No, this is good. Sometimes I have the thoughts like I can say them, but I can't really write them out that well.
Just write what you just told me.
Yeah. All right. So, however, I noticed the last sentence in the previous paragraph lacks relatable information to this paragraph.
Okay, so now that you've really zeroed in on that, I think you're doing really, really well, Ian, by the way. Thank you for going through this with me. So now that you've really zeroed in on that, now, can you give her something specific to think about, like with that sentence specifically, something to do? Like when she goes to her process journal,
So
what might she do?
I thought that was appropriate because like you're kind of telling them what to do, but like, are you trying to like give them an idea of what to do, or?
Yeah, so I mean, like, you might give them, yeah, so you don't want to just do it for them. So I know this is kind of tricky, but like I might say something like, well, how do you see the relationship between, this, what you're talking about in that, at the end of that paragraph, and what's happening next? Or, do we maybe need to think about is there a way to, do we need to reorder things or leave this out even? Or we could ask the questions like, what was I just saying? What am I about to say? What is the difference? There, you're not just like writing it out for them, but you're giving them some like specific questions or some specific things to go to.
So maybe like in order to do so, like we're referring back to the process journal, and answering like blah 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 questions help in smoothing this transition.
Yeah.
So maybe like answering like what the purpose of this opening statement is, and like maybe what the purpose of the last sentence was, or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. I think that.
So you did really well with that, Ian. Your first revision was way better than the original. Well, so the original was pretty good. Like, just if you were just kind of without going through this very specific process that I'm going through, that was like a really good comment. Then I think your revision improved upon that in terms of the specific way I'm asking you to comment in this class. And then the second revision was even stronger. And I don't think I could ask for a stronger student comment than this one.
Thank you.
Okay. So let me pause there and see Ian or Justin, and Justin, you did very well also.
Thank you.
Yeah, so any questions for me based on that little exercise we just went through? Sometimes doing something can unlodge new questions.
No, just cleared up my thoughts. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, about the same for me.
Okay, so well then, if there's nothing else, I can free you to enjoy the rest of your day.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
When are we supposed to comment on theirs by? Thursday?
Yeah, very good. So I said that at the beginning of the conference, which you missed, Ian. I'm asking, usually I was asking you to do it 5 p.m. the night before we would do in-class peer review, but since we're not doing an in-class peer review, you can have until the end of the day, Thursday, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on this coming Thursday.
Okay.
And I'm going to send an email later tonight, and I'm going to encourage people to both share their documents with their peer review groups and also post your side shadowing comments pretty quickly so that your group members have time to respond by Thursday evening.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
Okay. Well, that's it. So thanks for being here, and I'm going to stop the record session.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah.
I'll
Thank
see
you.
you. Bye.